Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Comfy Org stream. How's everybody doing today? I am joined today by Erin Sarofsky and Ryan Summers. Hello, hello. How are you all doing today?
Great.
Excited, caffeinated.
Well, let's tell the people who you are, just in case they don't know. I was flabbergasted when I went through your IMDb, Aaron. I didn't realize you did all those cool
Yeah,
titles.
yeah.
The community titles alone been burned into my memory since the show came out. But yeah, I'll let you guys talk about your backgrounds and stuff, so we can give people an idea of who you are before we start gushing about AI.
Yeah, I'm Erin Sarofsky. I own the studio Sarofsky. um, Not hard to figure that one out. And yeah, we're known for our community made titles, as well as we've worked on like over 15 shows for Marvel, a handful for DC, um, countless commercials, and and from a skill set standpoint, we do everything from live action through animation and heavy CG and VFX. And as people know, this isn't just TV and film anymore. This is experiential. This is out in the world. This is um, we're delivering all sorts of things for all sorts of places, all through a very heavy design lens. I think that's what makes the studio design and cinematic high production value work. So yeah, since to Ryan.
Yeah, and I don't even know how to answer this question more. But I work in emotion design and whatever else you want to call it for longer than I want to say out loud. But definitely just parroting what Aaron said. Like, just super excited right now because I've always been a bit of like a software nerd and how to apply that to like spaces and screens and characters and I was staunchly anti AI until about 6 months ago, and Aaron has always been kind of a tinkerer and been like a little bit ahead of the curve. And yeah, just recently, maybe 6 months ago, started playing with Comfy, and I'm like, wow, this is like back in the old days when I got started before everything was like just two or three tools, like. And in my world, a lot of times everything's seen through the lens of After Effects or Cinema 4D, and now Blender, thankfully a little bit too. But it was kind of just seen through that, and I always missed like the ability to like grab a camera and shoot something, and then track it, and then like add a scan of a like felt or whatever you might do. I'm old enough to feel like there was a Wild West time, and I was so stoked to talk to you because it feels like we're back at that time. Like we're finally everything that's old is new again, and now it's especially through Comfy, it feels like everything is possible, and it's just like keeping up to date with everything. Like everything that happens is happening so fast.
Yeah, and not only that, but not on the comfy side, like with the advent of vibe coding, like
Mm-hmm.
the art utilities or things like post processing, like anything you need, you can almost just smash together your own pipeline in like an hour.
Yeah.
That can do tons and tons of stuff and put it all in the same world. And anyway, we can talk about that forever. But yeah, we wanted to talk to you today about what it's been like coming from traditional tool sets to working with AI, the unpredictability, the slop machine nature, all the pitfalls, all the stuff, how you're navigating that, and if you find maybe some of those are actually what people see as pitfalls are actually strengths. Like we talk about failing fast a lot.
Yeah.
And things like that. So yeah, I'll let you all talk about it. But yeah, I'm just curious what your take is coming from such traditional tools and being well versed in the way things were. What's it like now?
Well, I think at first it's really scary because it's a new tool, and you kind of don't know what you're in for here. And I think as an industry where we finally feel like we're all grown up and our tools are stable and our renders are stable and there's how to's to literally do anything. And this new, we'll call it software, this new technology is it's all in bits and pieces out there. You know what I mean? It's all little, you know, I almost want to call it like plugins everywhere. Like I could try this plugin, but we all know plugins can make a render farm unstable. We all know, like it's just so haphazard what's happening around us. So as a studio owner, as we do like super important work for our clients that has to deliver on time, like introducing unknowns into our pipeline, I would say is very scary, because I mean, just to change or add a renderer to our mix, we're like testing like maniacs, you know what I mean? Before we update, to a new version of After Effects, we're testing it and making sure projects work. So all of this other stuff out there, and then the stigma around it too is part of the conversation. I have definite thoughts on that are very different, but yeah, I would say like at first it's like really scary. Like, is this going to work? Is it going to hold up? Can we follow through on the commitments that we're making and all of that? Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll have you elaborate on that. How's the reception been working with studios and trying to pitch AI as a, as a feature? Oh, we're joined by Bert, our creative director. Hello, Bert.
Hi. I was just hearing backstage.
Well, you're on stage now. Welcome.
Yeah. Reception is interesting. So some of our clients have very clear policies on what we're allowed to use and what we're not allowed to use. Some of them have probably to them very clear policies that aren't actually clear. I think there hasn't been a clear distinction around generative AI, image generating AI, and tools. So sometimes you'll have we have like a no AI policy, and you're like, okay, but like, can I use like generative fill in Photoshop when I cut out these images, right? Just to like fill in, or do I have to use the clone tool? And they're like, oh, we don't care about that. And I'm like, well, it's generative AI, right? Like, so I think that the distinction between not allowed to do and then just having insurance that covers our ass in case we ever get called out for something that we've done that we shouldn't have done, right? Like, there are policies out there. Thank you, Chubb, for that.
Yeah, and everything's so experimental still too.
Yeah, and who knows, right? Like, who knows? So
that experimental part is actually a cool part for us in the equation, is that there are a lot of clients, like agency people or entertainment clients, that are like, they will dabble in what they feel like is safe. Like maybe they play with Gemini because it's part of their Google account and they see it show up in a million places, or somebody's playing with Midjourney. But I feel like we get a lot of inquiries because people are like, I've taken it this far. I have no idea how you go any further, but we've seen you do some stuff with AI that feels like magic. Could you please help us? Like, they almost sometimes get themselves into trouble, or they hit a roadblock. And what's interesting is there are a lot of people who, if they haven't dabbled in like something like Comfy, that will say like, oh, AI is taking jobs, or AI is turning. I'm like, we've actually seen quite a bit of opportunity show up in front door because someone's playing and they get stuck, or someone gets to like see our pitch and then they get involved in the process because they're like, oh, someone who normally would not go into Photoshop and start making images can kind of start playing. And that ability to like bring them closer to you, where you have your arm around them, that's like the difference maker in the majority of your relationships. So we're in this together. It's not me against you trying to make something. We're actually playing. And normally that little bit of play is just enough to reduce so much friction that you can try stuff you normally wouldn't feel comfortable trying with a client who isn't involved, and they're scared and they're nervous. Like, I would say that's the biggest thing right now, is everyone is scared for a bunch of different reasons. Economy, not knowing who their audience is or where their audience is at. And then the AI of it all is like a force multiplier. And if all of a sudden they can sit with Erin, or they can sit with me or someone on our team and be like, for an hour, we're just going to have fun, it just reduces the strain and the tension and the kind of the friction. And for us, that's the job that before AI, that's always been the job, is like, how can we just create a safe environment for us to try stuff for a little while and then go forward together? So I'm actually super excited about it for a lot of reasons that aren't the normal, like, it's going to take every job.
Plus the back and forth. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bert.
No, I was going to add on to that. You said you were very against AI for, what was it, 6 months ago. What was the turning point that made you click and say, okay, there's something there?
I mean, I was watching Erin, who, like, she's a studio owner, right? Like, she is also a creative director. She also works on pitches. She makes frames. But the fact that she was able to make something on her own that looked like it was handcrafted. She has this whole scrims project that was just a personal thing outside of the studio. But seeing her ability, for us, I mean, I think for anybody, like, the key to anything creative is iterations. Like, just how many kicks can I get before I have to stop? Like, nothing's finished. It's never done. It's just like, we ran out of time and money. And for Erin to be able to have enough time and space to be able to like do that, as a studio owner, that's extremely rare, like exceedingly rare. So then I was like, well, I don't know what this is. But then when I actually started going into Comfy, I was like, oh, this is like XSI. I'm dating myself, but way back in the day, Softimage had created their like sequel to the 3D program, and it was called XSI, and it had this little thing called ICE that was basically like what Erin was saying. Every tool was just represented as a little box, and you could pipe stuff in and out, and you can make new tools, or you could do modifiers, and they had a little compositor built in there. And this is like 20 years ago. But that was my favorite tool of all time. And then it got bought by someone, and it end of lifed. So again, it was like, oh, this feels comfortable to me in a way that like I had not expected when I had dabbled with, like you said, the slop generator. I played with Midjourney. I was like, this is awful. I'm not going to spend this much time hoping for something. I need control. So that was probably the big thing. But really, at the end of the day, it was like everything here. We had a problem, a creative problem that was not getting solved. And I was like, well, here's the next tool I can try to see if I can solve it. And what we were getting out of it wasn't a solve. It was like breaking old, everybody knows the fast, cheap, good triangle, right? This is the first time I've ever done anything in my career that I was like, oh, I think we just broke that, like legitimately broke it.
That's a very good point. I also kind of want to go further back. You were still very agnostic about AI even then, but even after like seeing VO2, did that still make you go, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it did.
I was just like, I want, Erin, I don't know how you feel about it, but like I want control down to the metal, right? As an artist, like I want to be able, and not just like for the creative stuff, I want to be able to control down to the metal my optimization, my efficiency. You know, like when I work in Cinema 4D, I stake my claim early on because we could say, hey, on a title sequence, I don't want to have a frame that takes more than 5 minutes to render. But I knew I could do that because I had control of the creative, but I also had myself and my team could get super efficient on what and how we were rendering something. And Comfy, like even without knowing all that much, I could feel that. Like I had the ability to try to be like, I can make some creative sacrifices on how tight the resolution is going to be or how much it's sticking to my original illustration when it starts moving. And I'll have a sliding scale. I mean, I still have it up here, a sliding scale of like, hey, on a close-up, these are my settings that are appropriate. But on a faraway shot, we can get really fast and we get really efficient because I don't care how much it stays coherent to my initial illustration. It just has to do one or two things. That's not the control I had if I saw VO2. It was just like, oh, I mean, I won't say the name of the company, but there is what I used to consider a competitor to Comfy. And I just felt like I was just burning money. I was just like, and it never felt like until the 7th or 8th generation, anything got close to what I was asking for it. I was like, well, this is not, I can't build like Erin said, I can't ensure that I can have an output with this. But with Comfy, when I first started playing, it felt like I could.
Yeah, it's like a slot machine. I always felt like, all right, is it 7? Let's roll the dice again. But it was like more, it's like, it felt, when I started using Comfy, it was like less praying and less prompting, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's
a tool, right?
It's a tool.
That's what a tool is. Otherwise, it's a kind of like a gimmick. Like,
and then actually,
fun.
I think I saw this like a year ago where I'm like, I was seeing that it was starting to shift from less video, and it's more coming down to what is the frame, the image. It's all now based off the image. I feel like we're going backwards, where it's going to be more photography focused, because then you can make thousands of different permutations, variant scenes just off of that one photo, and then the last end frame, instead of burning money with everything that's pre-production before it even gets to us to even use. And now it, as you said, it gives the power back to us, rather than how much it costs for wardrobe, extras. Yes, AI might be taking that, but that part of the process is still needed. You need to still get shots of the wardrobe. You still need to get shots of all the angles of someone before you even get it hooked up into Comfy. Like getting different angle shots and using like 3D is it's fun. And it takes the hassle out of, well, what do I do with post-production? It's like, I can do the whole pre-production on my computer and not have to like farm that stuff out.
Yeah, you're having the same realization as a live action director who then goes and directs animation for the first time. Where they're like, wait, you have to do all this before, but you can do all this before? You actually edit the movie before you shoot it? And then you just have to have enough patience for the animators to go and animate it and prove it out. But it's always fun watching a live action director go and animate, like direct an animation for the first time, because it's just like all the stuff is about three things, right? It's time, money, and control. And it's that sliding scale of like, they either don't have enough time, you don't have enough money, or you have enough of those, but you don't have the control you want to be able to drive it. And what you're describing is now the control seems to be starting to come in. Like, we understand how much it's going to cost. Time has been significantly reduced down, but how much control do I get per spin of the dice, or per pulling the slot machine handle, right? And I think now you're starting to see ways where all that stuff is being, do you need camera control? Do you need consistency? Do you need the ability to create a variety of shots that you then can kind of put the order in and then fill in the blanks? Like, all that stuff you'd be asking as a director, you're starting to have the availability to do that.
Yeah, like you see these models who are trying to be different from what, like, I'm not going to say who, but you have the three big players who are making a lot of stuff. Like, there is like Ideogram, where you have an actual bounding box that you can control and you can move around.
Yeah.
And it isn't a slot machine as much as anymore. And we're seeing all these new tools and new enhancements that a lot of people aren't thinking, and they literally are thinking outside of the bounding box, which you can use within Ideogram, and you can control everything and move it. Like that's where I see so much potential with Comfy, because you can use whatever model you want, and you're not locked in a box. Like, well, I'm not having much luck with Gemini. I'm just going to try using, ChatGPT Image 2, and it's a lot of flicking switches and then fine-tuning controls, which I can't get with a prompt window and have to press a magic button.
Mm-hmm.
I actually wanted to go back to something that Erin had mentioned. You said you were able to actually extend scenes for film by 10, 12 frames. Are you finding with current tools that's something that's generally possible? Because I know it's a hell of a lot cheaper to do that than it is to get everyone back together and refilm.
Yeah, I mean, we played around with it. I feel like we've scored some extra frames here and there. That we would, does that ultimately make that big of a difference in the work? I don't know. But anytime something's popping up where you're wondering, like, can I do this? My whole thing is like, try and figure it out. Just try and get it going for yourself. I feel like I've had more luck, like lightly augmenting things than maybe extending them. But
like, in painting and out painting, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm just processing everything everybody's been talking about.
I know.
It's like, it's a lot, but I think, we talk about different models, and everybody, I don't know, it just seems like people want to talk about Runway or Kling and I'm like, the fact that you're like, so for me, like the real moment in like my journey to Comfy, or to, I think, understanding this stuff a little bit differently, is once you move off of like the web interface and into Comfy, and you start stacking these tools, you're not bound by like the controls that they're specifically giving you there. And so how you stack these tools and how you order them, if you work in production in any way, it's like pre-comping. It is like it's very, whatever tool you're used to, whether it's Flame or you were talking about Soft Image, which by the way, Community was created in.
Nice.
I remember Combustion even before that, and that was like my first. That and the Flame was like my first entry to a node-based system, and at first I was like, "What is this? This is crazy!" And then I just actually realized how much more powerful it is. And so you realize that you're not like beholden to what that model is giving you to play with, and the tools that they've created to show off how their model works best, right? You have to assume that they're offering you tools like, you can do this, you can do that. Well, what if I combine that with a whole different tool? And to Bert's point, what if I move from, VEO to whatever, you know what I mean? Like, you can just start experimenting. And then, because we aren't like beholden to live action, I feel like a lot of people think in like a live action kind of sense, because we are usually working in a look, in an aesthetic that we create kind of from ground up. Some models just work better than others in different looks. And so it is a lot of like, okay, we have this hand-drawn look, what's going to work best? And then my scripts are a very felted, textured, like, portrait style photography look. Like what's going to combine like a Muppet-esque look with, an Annie Leibovitz style portrait. You know what I mean? Like, coming up with that it's more than just the language of articulating it. It's playing with the tools and stacking them to get it there. And just knowing like eventually that tool is going to need to be replaced by another tool or another version of that tool. And for us, we found early on that like the look of the scripts was it was photoreal, but it was scrimpy as like a verb, you know what I mean? Or an adjective. It's like something to have that look. We found like newer models were like making it too photoreal, pushing towards too human. So we were using older models for a while to maintain our look. Right. And so that experimentation was just really interesting. It's like, as people use models, they learn more and more, and they might push in a direction that is not your thing. So it's just really fascinating what's happening out there. Yeah.
It's a lot like, I mean, there's an analog to the real, like to old days too, is like that's how film stock was, right? Like I remember when you were doing it and then we updated to something and all of a sudden it did not feel, it kind of looked and it had, but it didn't feel the same. And it's the same way where it's like, it's part emotional, it's part analytical. But when you talk to people with certain film stocks where they're like, yeah, we upgraded this because it would have a tighter grain and it would be better at low, and you're like, yeah, but when I watch, 5 minutes of a plant, it doesn't feel, like Blade Runner, no matter what you do, doesn't feel like Blade Runner 2049. So how do you almost hoard that stuff? You're like, okay, well, we got to vapor lock the pipeline in just this model. We can't auto update. Like I got in that trouble. I didn't know that ComfyUI desktop like auto updated, like by default.
Yeah,
and I literally like, there was a Saturday morning where I had worked all Friday night. I had let it cook. And then I woke up, and Saturday morning I went and started doing stuff. And my workflow for like style transfer just broke. It just didn't work anymore. And I didn't even do anything. And I was like, well, surely it wouldn't auto. Oh no, it did. But that's the cool thing about Comfy too, is like I literally started looking online and found a couple Discords, and we were going line by line in the actual app code. And there was a bracket that had not been, on the update that had gone out at 3:30 in the morning Central. All of a sudden, and me and some person in Eastern Europe were both going back and forth, like, copy this, try this, and we found the one bracket where it's like indented wrong, and there was not even in my workflow, just in Comfy, right? So that's like what Erin's saying. Like, it is climbing on the frontier is accurate, because you are, like, you have to control it the way you would control a VFX pipeline, where it doesn't matter if Autodesk released 3 new versions, like, you are staying on the one that work.
I just gotta say, I love our community. That's a great story.
Yeah. It was. I mean, my blood went cold for sure at 3:30 in the morning. When
I
was like, cool. Wait, what happened? I'm like,
yeah.
Now I got to
learn.
Been
talking about this idea of being able to lock a pipeline or have a production. Yeah, locking a pipeline, so this doesn't happen. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the Git version of Comfy does do that. I think we probably added the auto updates in desktop to make it easier for people. But, this kind of stuff, this is where these things get surfaced that we would maybe not have noticed. We think it's a great feature, and then it's actually not great for someone who's trying to deploy Comfy. So,
I mean, I'm glad you're thinking that, because that's what I really appreciate about Blender, is that, like, Blender will be updating crazy, and they'll have, and it makes it very easy. They make it very easy, but they have, I think it's called the LTS. Like, they have the version that's more stable. Like they're like, we will only integrate things that don't break after we've tested them, and that's then also going to be supported for several years, right? Like, the commitment for an open source team to be able to do something like that, like, that's a great model for once you start getting to places like us where it's more than one person. And it might be a client, like, I might get a call in 6 months from our museum client that we worked on, where they're like, we want to add an extra scene because this happened in, wherever. I need to be able to know that I can just pull that up and, like, it's locked down, and I don't have to try to rebuild it, because it is, in some ways, it's like creative capital that you've now you've invested, and you need to be able to have it pay off for you for years still.
There is a snapshot system. I'm not sure if it's been fully implemented or if it's being built right now. I can't remember the current status, but the idea of that is to lock a snapshot and just be like, hey, you know, if this workflow needs to work in 6 months, you got to use a snapshot because you know, dependencies, all the fun stuff that we always talk about. But yeah, you know,
that's brilliant.
Python's great and awful at the same time.
Well, it's very scary if all of the limit of your coding experience is JavaScript and After Effects, and all of a sudden you got to go hunting for a bracket somewhere. Like that was definitely. That's where having the community was just like, you could see there was at least 7 other people that happened to be up late at night that ran into the same problem. That was huge. I can say any of my other tools that does not exist. Like
right, or you don't even have access
right
to compile, like it's a compiled exe. Like you're
out of luck.
Yeah.
So actually, that brings up another question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Erin.
I was going to say, I can imagine just that experience though, and that would like fully terrify an After Effects animator.
Oh my God.
That is not a coder in any way, or is more on the design side, dabbling in animation. Like, I wonder like how to introduce them to Comfy and the pipeline, like a real kind of just some basic stuff to get them swimming in the shallow end. Because to a certain extent, like with Comfy, it does feel like even just to get it installed on your machine, you're full cannonball mode, you know, and it is uncomfortable for somebody that is very used to comfortable Adobe products, you know.
Yeah.
And so to get adoption, I think that is going to be a thing, right? Like especially from studios like ours, like. We have to be able to be locked into our pipeline and things like that. That's a different thing. But I think that just the entry into Comfy is a little scary.
How has that been onboarding? Have you been onboarding other staff into the Comfy thing, or is it more just been you two?
So
like, how's that going?
It's going challengingly, I would say.
It's hard.
I think part of the challenge isn't just getting people excited about it and open to it, because I could just tell people they got to do it, right? Like I could just say that. But I don't know. I think like I just want to be more sure of it. You know what I mean? Like not everybody is a Ryan who's going to be up at 2:30 in the morning chatting with somebody across the planet,
scraping Discord,
figure out what broke. Somebody's just going to say, "This broke. I don't know what's wrong, and we're not delivering." You know what I mean? Like Ryan's a rare person in that. Like, and I would say that you know at a certain point, like I can't have that expectations of every person. I have to just use things and talent that is somewhat traditional in that way because I know I can deliver for sure with that. But this is the beginning of something dramatic, and I would say in terms of a shift in pipeline and how we do things. And so that's why I would say like it would be great if there was a way of just like getting in a little bit less of a cannonball and more of like, you know, a toe and ankle, so that I can basically mandate it a little bit more softly. You know what I mean?
I think that's where some of the stuff you all are doing. I even see like Tim is saying in the chat, like any thoughts on the 3D to C dance render workflows?
Oh, sorry. Just before we jump into that, I just wanted to say goodbye to Bert. Thanks for hanging out, buddy. And
thanks for having me. Bye.
See you, dude.
Sorry, go on, Ryan.
I think that's probably the best on-ramp for people in the future is not coming from a cold start and just spending weeks inundating yourself and going all over the place. I think the place that's really going to make sense is, and I can't remember what it's called or it's being planned for Comfy, but the ability to kind of package a bunch of things and basically publish it as just like hey, here you can put some inputs. ComfyUI does all of its magic and it spits out a thing. Like I can build in ICE, it was called compounds, where I could basically take a bunch of nodes, a graph,
Oh,
put it
subgraphs.
in subgraph. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I think that if it has a way, if and when there's the ability to publish that into After Effects or into something like Cinema 4D or Blender, where you
Oh,
can,
like as a bridge plugin.
yes, where you don't need to know how it's constructed, but you know that you are
Sure.
using it, and it opens up you're like, oh, I see several things happening. This is very similar, at least at a studio workflow, of 2D going to 3D, right? Like I saw 2D animation, like Disney go from 2D to 3D, and was living in the world of that. I saw the majority of After Effects animators having to struggle learning how to get to C4D. If you can give people capabilities that they then get like almost like addicted to, or know they can rely on, a subset of those people will start clicking on that subgraph or start diving into that compound and be like, how could I adjust that a little bit?
Yeah.
Or can I ask the person who prepped it? And then you're starting to build relationships with people where all of a sudden they're like, oh, motion design, at least our world, animation definitely has it. Motion design has, for some reason, not accepted the idea of like a TD, like a technical artist, or like gaming does, VFX does, animation, feature, and TV. But for some reason, motion design has been this like Wild West. That's your specialty. You're the technical person. But the ability to interrupt between, like, it's kind of weird in motion design. Most of the time, one person hands a shot, and then another person hands a shot, and then they just hand it to the editor or the flame op to kind of make it all talk to each other. That's going to have to change in the future. And what's cool is some studios can do it, and some studios can just do it the way we always used to do it. But I think like what Tim is saying, things like what I'm talking about, or do a gray box render, get your camera where you want it, prompt up or photo bash in Photoshop, a start and an end image, and then let Comfy, process through whatever, if it's seed dance or whatever, to be able to say, like, I know this is my length of my shot. I know this is where I want the camera to be, and it needs to look and feel like this. That whole idea of like, I just call it like style transfer, just to make it easy for people to understand that at whatever level you're interested in. I think that's going to make a big difference for people who are like either there's gonna be people who are just anti-AI. They're never gonna touch it, and I can't help them with that. But the people who are just like kind of like, this is scary. Like, I don't like Nuke. I would never use Nuke over After Effects because of just the complexity or the perceived complexity. That's gonna get people in, I think, because that's stuff you can't do easily anywhere else. Is like animate a bunch of basic shapes and then make them look like they're rendered.
Yeah, we're in a really interesting spot right now with our Comfy MCP and all that stuff and agentic work, and then pairing that with yourself, who's an actual human designer. It is like having a junior designer sort of working and doing all the plumbing and stuff for Comfy and just executing your vision. But what I've really found to be really helpful with that, where Comfy is always a one shot. Like, I'm doing a thing, and then I get the result, and then I have to run another workflow.
Right.
With the agent, it's like, okay, we'll take outputs 3 and 4 and stitch them together with the first frame, last frame with Seedance, and let's see how this looks as a scene. And just that unlock of now I don't have to know how to do those 3 workflows. I just ask for things. I think that's going to be a massive unlock for people just going from idea to thing. And then the nice thing about all that is everything you make, all the media, even with the MCP, all the media contains that workflow. Yeah. So you go back, you drag that workflow back in, and then you can see exactly how the sausage was made. Then you could reproduce or make a pipeline out of that, or make that an element of a pipeline. But the reason I brought that up is what you're talking about is sort of hitting Comfy headlessly is something that we also allow through Comfy Cloud with API nodes and partner nodes calls and generally even open source calls as well. You can make these little API endpoint workflows that sort of exist as these endpoints that you can hit and process and return. So I think that
I'm ready for that.
Path to that is Claude coding your own open effects or After Effects plugins that hit these endpoints. Just use your Comfy Cloud key and you're off to the races. And your compute is handled elsewhere, which is great if you're on a MacBook or something.
I have
not to turn this into a pitch for Comfy MCP, but
no, I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
I've heard who was at Disney, like I think it was last week or the week before, and it wasn't the exact same thing, but I think he was. I love OpenClaw. I've been using it a lot and I'm hitting my limits with it. But he was working, I think, with like Hermes, speaking to Claude. I don't know why he had this way, but he was talking to his phone to Hermes, and Hermes was doing stuff to Claude, and Claude was going to Blender, and he was basically saying, like, describing while he's waiting in line for like It's a Small World, like the 5 shots he needed it to kind of like give him 5 variations each. And then at lunch, when he sat down, when he was done with the ride, he was looking at the renders, and then he was then going back like, okay, cool, I'm going to prompt up a couple images now, apply this image to these 3 renders, and like it was like what would happen if you had like a 5 to 6 person team back at the studio and you had to take the day off to do something.
Yeah, you're
but it
just
was
checking in
all
from coffee shops and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, and you know, and none of that was going to be like, I always try to tell people, I think of it as like 3 categories. There's fast, first, and final pixel, right? You can be completely against the idea of anything AI for final pixel, but that doesn't mean you couldn't start using it just for a fast iteration or a first pixel kind of like, I'm trying to tell a story, right? And that's where I think Erin has it, because so she's done it so well at the studio, is that she's broadcast that, and clients are like, sometimes we'll have clients like, hey, we have a pitch, like an agency, we have a pitch and we don't have time to have anybody animate it, but you guys have some kind of magic thing you do, could you animate a soda bottle with a shadow going through it? And if that, you know, that would be great for us to like seal the deal for our pitch. 2 hours later, we make like 5 ideas, throw it in their deck, the next day they win it, and then the job, you know, we get a call, you know, that Monday. Like, that's fast, right? That's not first pixel, because it's not really the final thing. It's just, can you do? And I think like if people are trying to figure out like where they fit in the industry, everybody on this chat right now, you are like 85% ahead of a traditional motion design artist. There's going to be a classification for like studios like Sarofsky at some point, or other studios where like, we need a couple people like this that we can just call, that they are living in this, they are on top of it, for those 3 categories, right? Fast pixel, first pixel, final pixel. Personally, like, because I do think that there will be people who get into it. There's the tinkerers that are into C4D or whatever, that'll find their way. But I also think that there's just a generational difference between people who are just coming up thinking this way, and they don't have to do that filter of like, okay, so if I would use AI, how would I do it first and then translate that into Comfy? There's people who just like, they think this way, right? It's like, if you speak French, you probably know enough to be comfortable in Spanish, but like, you're not a native speaker, right? And it's really hard to just sound like a native speaker or work like a native AI artist. And I think there's truth to that. There's just a different way of working. They all need fundamentals, right? Like, we need people who understand film language, need people who understand design, but it's just 2 different ways of working.
Yeah, there's a language to the models themselves. So we were talking about that earlier. They all have different strengths and weaknesses. You know, some are good at illustrative, some are good at realistic. I think just to further on what Erin was talking about, there is just being model agnostic, being open to switching your entire pipeline tomorrow if the thing works better. You know, I think that's a skill everyone can definitely sharpen now, is being adept, being adaptable, being never stuck in you know, a certain way of doing things. I think that mentality is not only dead, but almost kind of toxic to like fast and like creation, like team creation. Like, I feel like forcing everyone to do things the way you do it because you're used to it tends to result in people not being able to, like, you know, fly their freak flag and really like nail the original vision, because they're stuck using your, you know, specific pipeline. So I'm really excited to see what all the young people make with just this complete lack of that. Like, you're seeing it already, just the even in the new memes and the new slop that's coming out. Like, there's like, people call it slop, but there is some incredibly amazing, weird, experimental art films being made right now. And like, I mean, I feel bad for people who don't see that, honestly.
That kind of thinking is so important though, because like I have to feel like I have to shake our artists that we work a lot of times, because their first thought is, okay, this is my assignment, and they filter it through what they know the tools can do, which is honestly why I get so frustrated in motion design in general, that everything kind of looks and feels and talks and moves the same, right?
It's like this, they use the same curves everyone uses, or the same, exactly. It's
same
like,
compositing plugins,
recognize things, or plugins, plugins like Signal and all the like After Effects plugins that everyone uses. You're just sort of like, yeah.
I mean, I will say, like generative AI stuff is the fastest eating its own tail Ouroboros like trend machine I've ever seen. Like, something comes out and 3 days later it's been done so often that if you're paying attention, you're like, yeah, I'm past that. And clients see that, right? Like, one big thing that I feel like it's happened recently is there's this character. I'm a character guy at heart, and in motion design, there's this whole idea of like corporate Memphis character designs, like the boring characters that are purple or blue, and they have a little triangle shadow on their neck and their rubber hose. You're seeing that in AI, where every time it's like, oh, now we can do kind of like Pixar-like characters. And then for 3 months, you see a wave of like commercials on TV that all look like poorly animated Pixar renders. And it's like, so you have to be aware of it, because somebody who isn't aware of it but then sees that and then tries to go sell that, they're actually selling something that's tired and like kind of rehashed and not ownable by a brand at all. But there's
that's
that
the thing.
temptation
Yeah.
to kind of capture that new thing and just get it out into the world. And it happens so fast now. It used to be like a year and a half, 2 year. Apple would do something and then everybody copies it for 2 years, and then eventually it gets tired and then the new thing comes. Now it's like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It's crazy.
Christian from the chat here asked, complexity is not scary. It is time consuming. Considering there's something new in the AI world coming out every week, it makes you question, do I want to spend the time to learn this tool when next week, next month, it might not be relevant anymore? So as a question to both of you, do you just use your gut on a model? Do you test everything? Do you just test stuff that just extremely speaks to you? Like what's your sort of approach to this?
Well, I totally I read that question before you pulled it up, and I was hoping we would kind of speak to it because it is a lot, and there's a part of me that, like, as we were even just experimenting, even early days, I was like, oh God, I just don't want to have to learn something new like this. That is just like endless. Like we finally got to a place where everything was stable, and I just didn't have to be not. I feel like we're all lifetime learners. We knew that like software was going to be updates, there were going to be advancements, but there's this aspect of what's going on here where it's like a fire hose of just all the things you can and should be, and you think you have to be everywhere all at once, and it's just like wildly overwhelming. The way I've approached this, and I think Ryan and I are a little different in approaching it, is I like to have a goal. I like to have something I want to accomplish, and I will just work relentlessly at the pursuit of my vision. And through that means I'm testing things, I'm trying things, I'm talking to other people, like, but just to get to that goal. And so that experimentation creates learning. It gets me through no's a lot, but hey, in the process, I learned that, okay, that doesn't work with my scripts, but that does work. That would work with something that's hand illustrated, right? Or that would work with oh, that's an interesting tool, not what I need, but moving on. And so I feel like me having a goal and a creative pursuit has kind of given me a rudder and a sail through all of this. And so, no, I won't learn everything that's out there. But at the end of the day, I'm making stuff and I'm putting it out in the world. And if you look at, it's been going on for like 3 years now. So if you go back through like the Instagram feed, just on that one project where I like fully advertise what it is, right? Like you can see how it's evolved over time and how as tools change and as my pipelines change, like the results have changed as well. So it is quite interesting. And for me, it is all about having that creative objective or pursuit. Yeah.
Yeah. So like rudderless exploration will tend to end in sadness because you don't know what you're looking for.
Oh my God. Yeah, please. The previous generation of people, at least in motion design, made a massive mistake by building their identity around the tool set and having that. If you play video games and you're a completist, like you got to get every ring, you got to get everything. This is not the tool set for you because it's impossible and you will drive yourself crazy. But also, there isn't that need for it. If you're trying to do this professionally, I always call it voice and vision. Like there's always room for somebody who's a tinker and kind of is a Swiss Army knife. But that was when there were like 3 tools. Now there's like 300 every day and they change and evolve. I think it's really, especially as you're getting started, like have an end goal in mind. You're like, oh, I love Dragon Ball Z. I want to find a way to make my movements map to Dragon Ball Z characters. I want to be able to do Dragon Ball Z shorts, minute long YouTube shorts and see what happens, or whatever that thing is that you want to kind of go after that and then learn the tools that you need to be able to do that rather than trying to be like, okay, today, frozen in time, I'm going to learn everything about ComfyUI. Like, good luck. You can't stay up long enough and learn long enough. And then as soon as you do, it will literally change tomorrow and be all broken.
And 80% of it is irrelevant to what you're currently doing anyway, really, because it's like Blender. What you're describing is when people used to ask me, oh, I want to learn Blender. It's like, yeah, but what do you want to do? Like, Blender can do everything. Like, you want to learn Blender, you're going to be a sad person.
You want to learn how to do some cloud sims or have Liquid, like,
And it goes back to, I always go back to old time to try to, like, older stuff to try to at least make it be like, this, nothing's new. This is, you always met that kid in school. It's like, I want to make movies. It's like, okay, cool. Like why? My whole job, I really feel like, is going from how to what to why as fast as I can. Like how are we going to make this? Well, who cares? What should we make? That's kind of important. Why are you making it? Right. And if somebody's saying like, I want to learn ComfyUI, I was like, why? Like, just ask yourself why, because maybe all you want to do is just smash cars together and make them explode. Or maybe you have this story about something that happened in your past that you want to learn enough to find other people to go and tell that story. Like, why do you want to do it? And let that be your guide as to what you spend your time doing, really. Because otherwise, man, you'll there's the simplest thing I can say is like, finished is better than perfect. I feel like everybody thinks they need to be perfect before they can even start.
And released is better than on your hard drive.
Or in your brain, even worse. Like, living within your brain is like the most maddening thing you can go through.
Yeah, it's interesting working on the scripts, which is rooted in imperfection. They're like kind of fucked up Muppets. Like, imagine Muppets doom scrolling for like 8 years. You know what I mean? Like, that's what the project essentially is. So kind of when things are a little messed up, I embraced it. And as we got into air quotes animating them, but like having them perform using AI tools, that for me, 70% was 100%. Like, I couldn't put on the standards that I have creating a Marvel main title sequence the traditional way on that kind of a project, because I would literally never put anything out. And so part of it for me is about experimenting, doing a thing, getting it out there, moving on, moving at the speed of culture is what I call it with my content. And so it's not about perfect, it's about done, you know, but our studio's work isn't like that. So when we are implementing it into our pipeline, we are just much more rigorous with how we test it. But I do think there is an aspect of when you are working with these tools that the lensing at which you look at them through is really important, you know? Yeah.
What's been the most surprising like productivity unlock that AI has given you, as far as like replacing maybe a traditional tool, like maybe rotoscoping? Like, what's the fastest thing you always reach for AI for now that you wouldn't have in the past?
In Photoshop, that generative fill, expand canvas, just something as simple as selecting a face or a hand, like little itty bitty things like that people don't even think of as AI anymore, or don't know that they're AI because they've been integrated for so long. Fucking Topaz is a miracle.
Right. Yeah. I'm
I mean,
morning.
just
literally,
you know, just I mean, even on the scripts, the way like the fibers come to life, and you know, changing frame rates, just like up-resing, just stuff that would make us insane, and just we couldn't do, but we had to do, right? Like, stuff like that is just procedural things like that are, and you know, with Comfy and being able to stack tools like that to do a roto, to do things like that, you know, we would send it out and people are like, oh, you know, for me, like when we have a budget on a job, if I'm not spending that money on rotoscoping it, I'm spending the money on something creative that's like an artist is doing. So for me, it's moving the budget around. It's allowing more time and money to do the things we want to be spending more time and money doing. So it's offsetting how we're using our budget, not necessarily impacting the cost of things or the amount of people doing it. It's just kind of transferring it from.
That's an interesting take, because a lot of you hear about replacement, right? If everything's cheaper, but maybe you can actually pay people to do things that people are good at and use their computers to do things.
I want to see more of the money on screen. That's what I want to do. I want to get through the nose faster and through some of that procedural stuff faster so that I can see more of the money on screen. I want to get I just want the creative to get better and better and the execution to get better and better. And if a big chunk of the time and budget is spent on getting a lot of no's of like, no, not like that. No, not like that. If I can bang through that stuff, get to the yes, and then focus 3 weeks instead of 1 week on that yes, like work is just going to get better and better, and so that's what it comes down to for me. Yeah, that's how we deal with it. I think like the hard thing is just understanding how to price for when a client comes in specifically asking for something with AI, because it's just a whole different pipeline and a different thing, and I don't think there have been any really standards set around it. It's almost like
especially for time, because
Yeah.
like it might not actually be faster because you got to actually spend time
Yeah.
figuring out how to do the thing, but
Right.
you might be able to actually move faster once you have the thing.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
almost like a front-loaded cost of research.
Exactly.
And
Yeah. And I think nobody's talking about the fact that this stuff is relatively cheap right now. I do
Mhm.
believe that there is a line that's going to be crossed where, as things are worked out, the prices are going to just get astronomical for
Yeah.
for compute and things like that. And so what we could do at a fraction of the
Mhm.
cost now that we're setting a precedence for from like a charging perspective later is going to be astronomically expensive and
Yep.
possibly even more than doing it the traditional way.
Mhm.
Yeah, it depends how it goes. I think that's another good reason to stay, like keep one foot in the open source world,
Yes.
Yeah.
and like
10,000%.
just see what you can do locally,
Mhm.
how much you can get
Yeah.
away with before
Yeah.
you
I mean,
need to push.
to go to that, like that's why I've been having constant conversations with more studio owners, specifically being like, don't qualify or talk about these jobs as AI jobs versus regular jobs, because the pricing right now is you're getting the garage sale price
Yeah.
that at some point someone's going to run out of VC funding and have to actually charge what it really costs. And there will be a time in 10 years or 8 years where like we have compression techniques and we have other ways of like taking compute, like the amount of inference time down and compute time down. But right now you're being subsidized by people who want you to use it. And if you start building your business practices in terms of like how much we should charge an AI job, we're hosing ourselves as an industry. We should just be talking about what quality fidelity level do you want, what type of performance level do you want, and how much time will that take, and let them figure that out on their old scale. Like we give our leverage away as an industry so much because something new comes in and makes it faster. And I'm desperately talking to everybody, like don't talk about that. Just talk about how much better this looks. And it doesn't even matter necessarily how it got done. It just meant you got to play with it. Or we got 5 iterations instead of just taking the first thing that came from it. That's the thing that they should be excited about, not what node graph it went through or which service you uploaded it to, because then it's just gonna turn to a commodity. And then again, it doesn't look like, I say this all the time, the moment visual effects kill themselves is when industrial light and magic started talking about the industrial part and less about the magic part. When they went from everything being handmade and VFX being optical to like, look at these cool computers, the VFX industry hosed itself because all everyone wanted to say is like, well, I have a computer, my kid has a computer, we could do that. And then the value just drops and it doesn't look like magic anymore. And what we do, I mean, it's still driven by art. It's still driven by intuition. It's still driven by experience. That has a monetary value if we don't undersell it just to get the next job. But there's that temptation right now. Some people are like, yeah, but I could do it for half and I could get that first job because I could do it for half. And like, slippery slope, guys. Like, I don't know if you want to really go down there.
Like that's what killed the live music industry was
Exactly.
Kids doing shows for $50 a night. It's like, that won't cover the parking ticket and we're adults.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do a gig. I'm going to do a 3-hour gig for $50. That's insane.
Go for it. Have fun. Yeah, it's not sustainable.
But now you can't get a gig because all the kids will do it for $50. And it's not really blaming the kids or anything. It's just that they have more time and their time is less valuable to them, even though it should be more valuable to them, because they're young. But the point is like, oh, $50, awesome, we can get some drinks. But then you've kind of you've screwed everyone who's been doing this and is more capable of maybe entertaining this and that. You'll never see them again because because the cost goes down. So that's one thing. That's a good point, is to try not to just undercut everyone because you can today.
So the reality is like companies, clients, organizations, the ones that want things done cheaper, like don't even work with us anymore anyway. Like if somebody in a simple way, like if somebody wants a logo, they can call us and we can, or Collins, and they could pay $500,000, $1 million for a logo design, right? They can also pop on Fiverr and get it in a couple hours and have their typeset in Microsoft Word or whatever. Like it's just, Or now you could just drop it in ChatGPT and say, like, make me a logo. This is what my company name is, and this is what we do. Like,
SVG, so I can.
but those were never our clients. Like, from Sarofsky's
Right.
perspective, those weren't our clients. They pay for the process and the insight and the experience more than even the outcome, I believe. You know, like that stuff, that icky stuff that happens along the way, right? Where we're experimenting and learning.
It also helps them define their identity. I think as you look at them
Yeah.
through a lens, you're helping them develop their own brand awareness.
Yeah. But people
so
that-
there's value in that.
Totally. And then for companies that stopped filming in the US, or then in the US started filming only where there were tax credits, and then moved to like filming overseas so they don't have to pay SAG wages or you know, talent rights, and just get everything a lot cheaper, they're going to be the first ones doing humans as AI, right? Like so at a certain point they stop being our clients. Maybe back in the day they were, but they're not anymore. So I feel like people that are going to go full end-to-end AI just weren't our clients to begin with. You know,
and there's precedent to that too, man. I remember when mocap was going to destroy the animation industry, right? I remember Monster House and Beowulf and Polar Express, and there was a lot of money put towards everything's gonna be done in mocap, guys. Forget it, hang it up, no more animation, we're cooked. And what happened? The promise was not as big as the reality was not as big as the promise. Mocap still gets used all the time. It's become commoditized. I can do it with my iPhone now. I can, but like animation's still there. It just means like, I think people think that there's like this finite pool of stuff, and they don't realize every one of these like revolutions opens it bigger and opens it bigger, right? And there's going to be people who want it cheap, and there's going to be people who want it to be able to tell something a specific way, and you find your place in that, right? Like it's different for everybody. It is not binary. It's not yes or no. It's not the old way or the new way. Like, but it's all of us. It's up to all of us to figure that out.
IKEA didn't kill handcrafted furniture.
It
pushed
handcrafted furniture, the price for it even higher.
Because it was like, just because something gets devalued doesn't necessarily mean the craft version of that thing is devalued. In fact, it can go up. Or the people that have these abilities, the traditional abilities that can blend them with AI, I feel like that's
the key.
Going to be the most exciting part of
that's going to be the exciting stuff, right?
And also working with kids who've never touched this stuff, who don't have these internalized walls in their head. They're just like, well, why can't we do that? I don't know. I'm super stoked.
How have you seen adoption from high school and college students? Because what I've been noticing in my travels is that adoption of AI tools with the younger generation alpha is limited, and I
don't like it.
So I wonder if that's not because of AI, but what AI means out in the world. It means trillionaires and government and business being in cahoots. Like, why be a trillionaire if you have to listen to, if you're showing up at the government and glad handing? You should be, taking risks and like doing all of this other stuff. It's almost like, tech companies are in a way like our new Supreme Court, and they're just like bending at the knee just so that they don't get some bad press, but they have all the money and all the expertise to really go and be fighting on behalf of people. And I think that's what the younger generation is upset about, is that they have all
what I would have been like when I was a kid. I was a little punk. I hated everything. I hated copyright. I hated all of it. And this would just feel like an extension of that if I was that age again.
Yeah, I think it's the stigma of it. I think it's this idea of like, not caring for communities and building data centers. I think I don't even necessarily know how the water works, but like they do use up a lot of water, but like it's also recycled once it's in, right? Like, so what is really going on? I know the sound is outrageous, but that's also how it's being powered. How is this all going to be powered? Like the electric grids? Do you think the electric grids that were created in the 40s and 50s are really going to like work out really great once all this shit is up and running? Like, I think that's what kids are thinking about before they get into Comfy. I think that is the stuff that is like very much weighing on them and their futures, and why there is this just like moral apprehension to it. I don't think it is like the tools and how they could be helpful. I think it's like,
once you sit down with someone and start playing the tools, they get excited and it's
Ooh,
fine. But
yeah.
no, there's there's just a massive backlash against it right now, and it is what it is. All I can do from my perspective is show people cool stuff they can do with tools, and let them make their own decisions about whether they want to do it with AI, do it traditionally, or do a blend of both. Obviously, I'm deep into AI and I like this stuff, but I also love handcrafted art. I love stuff people's like drawing. Like I love generative art, the hand-coded generative art, all that stuff. It's amazing.
I love how it all combines together, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing that really needs to be communicated out, is that if you are an illustrator and you want to dabble in animation, like you can.
It's not mutually exclusive, right? Like it's not. I mean, that's what was so cool about the project we did, is that we didn't even call it AI. We said like, hey, we're gonna do markerless motion capture, and then we're going to be doing style transfer of handmade illustrations, because the museum that this is one exhibit of 8. Everything was built on handcrafted stuff where you can feel the hand of the artist when you see it, whether it's because it's tactile or because that has errors or it has flicker. And we were nervous at first about showing it to them, because they're like, it obviously is as cutting edge as you can make it at the moment. And as soon as they saw it cutting and it was treated with a human hand, it was given enough flicker and it was given grain, and it wasn't just, like crappy mocap. It immediately they're like, this is it. This we need the whole thing to look like this. So this doesn't have to be us against someone else.
Right.
Like that's why I keep on saying, for anybody who's listening to this, like that, this is one of the few innovations, because of the stuff you talked about. Not everyone that's already established is running to use it, which is creating a vacuum for people to get in to an industry that historically would take you 5-10 years or hundreds of thousands of dollars of going to school and equipment. Like it's just like when the move went from 2D to 3D. If you can learn a little bit about the basics of 3D animation, but be very well versed in how to rig a character and model a character and UV it, there was a moment for you to get in, which normally would be closed to you. Like there's definitely a moment right now for people who understand these tools and are at least even appreciate or are interested in filmmaking or graphic design or animation, to pick up along the way as they're providing these. Because to be honest, like you asked, what's something mind-blowing? Anything for me, anything that challenges the kind of like assumptions of a pipeline or a workflow or a deliverable. And the really tactical thing was, what was so amazing for this job we were talking about, for the first time in my life, I could do lip sync after animation's done. Because and it was weird. At first I was using this thing called Infinite Talk. And it kind of just lip flapped and it was not accurate. And then right at the end, I was going to use that, but we had a weird wrinkle, because the person who's going to do the voiceover was a famous movie star. He wasn't available until like 4 days before the place was about to open. We would not have been able to render the 9K had we done that. So we're like, at first we were like, well, we just won't have our characters move their mouths. And when the way they're After Effects puppets, that was fine. But as soon as we had this fluid movement and you didn't see them moving their mouths, it was like, major disconnect, right? It was uncanny valley all of a sudden, because they're like, who's talking? There's 12 characters. And so we're going to use Infinite Talk. And then about 2 weeks before, Kling was available, and Kling nailed it. And it didn't affect the performance, didn't affect the render quality, but somehow and now like that stuff, again, there's workflows that can just be completely taken care of in it. But that idea of challenging 50-year-old assumptions, you got to do your recordings, you got to do your limp sync, like that's got to be done before you ever animate. Now I can hire whatever animator or whatever actor I want. I just disintermediated something that's been 100 years old, 50 years old, right? Like I have to challenge my own assumptions, so people who know this stuff can come to people like us and be like, hey, did you know you actually didn't have to do it that way? You could do all this before you even have the approved models, or whatever it might be. That's a huge thing that never existed until 2 years ago in this industry. And there's people we need that can kind of like keep us up to date and push us.
Cool. Well, we have hit an hour, so I would just like to say thank you again, and I would love to invite you guys back for even more chit-chatting about this stuff. I find this endlessly fascinating, and I think our audience does too.
I saw our audience. I would love to come back, because I saw the audience a couple times. Like, so are they going to show anything?
I know.
We could actually show you some stuff. But it's we have to talk about this.
If you want to show, we got time. If you want to show,
I think think we both have to hop, right?
Yeah, it sounds good.
I think we got some meetings, but let's do this
again.
Another one.
I absolutely enjoyed this conversation. I love
meet the scrims on Instagram.
Heck yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And and we'll add all your any links you want to the description of the video below. So people, if you want to learn more about Sarofsky Studio and Ryan and Erin, please we'll put the links in the thing, and you can go check them out. Yeah, thank you for hanging out, and thanks for being so open to all this technology. It's so cool to talk to people that just embrace new stuff. It's awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. It's great meeting you all.
Thank you.
Have a great one.
Bye, guys.